I want to play a very stereotypical vampire, like, I want to suck you, your blood specifically. I've only watched 2 episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, but I want that energy. And if my character uses a melee weapon, I like the idea of it being called the Transylvania Twister. And later on, I could lose the weapon, specifically so I have the opportunity to shake my fist and say the phrase, whatever happened to my, whatever happened to my Transylvania Twist? And then maybe I could replace my weapon with a new one called the Monster Masher. I'd have to work with my DM a lot to make that work, and it'd all be for a singular, really funny joke, but I really like the idea. I think it'd be hilarious. My biggest hurdle is that Transylvania probably doesn't exist. Mechanically, I'd probably play as a Dhampir, and for my class, I'm not sure yet. Maybe the classic Swarmkeeper Ranger with bats. But if my DM allows unofficial content, I may want to lean into the blood theme. Maybe I play the Matt Mercer Blood Magic Wizard subclass. Or the Matt Mercer Blood Hunter. I haven't looked into the Blood Hunter much, but it has blood in the name, so, that might work. Although I think it's more of a Monster Hunter type of thing, but I could still make it work. And Artificer is also something I may consider just because Artificers are really cool. And I really like the joke of having a weapon called the Crypt Kicker V5. I don't know why, but referencing the Monster Mash feels like peak comedy when I think of what I want to do with this character. I also want to play a cultist, just a crazed cultist that occasionally chants in alien languages. Likely a warlock. They'd appear kinda evil, edgy, and insane, but they have a black cat. And that cat is their best friend. It's just a regular cat too with no connection to their patron. Actually, this would vaguely be like Gundam Tanaka from Danganronpa now that I think about it. Also, this is dangerously close to just being Power from Chainsaw Man, but I like the idea of playing this type of character. I'm a fan of kind of weird, Chuni-like characters, and having a weird cultist who's kind of grounded to reality by a cat that they care about really sparks my imagination on what their backstory could be. I'm instantly thinking of ideas on how I'd write and roleplay them, and think of how they'd be affected if something happened to that cat. There's so much narrative potential. Mechanically, I'm not sure how I'd make this character. I'd want it to be a warlock, of course, for that cultist energy. But I'd also want the cat to have some use, probably in combat. So worst case scenario, I just reflavor some stuff and go like a ranger, beastmaster, multi-class. But there's probably some better solution I'm not thinking of. Or maybe I would just take like a single level dip in warlock and then go ranger, maybe. I'd have to look into it, of course. Ideally, I'd optimize all these concepts so that it doesn't feel bad to play them. I also want to play a cool swordsman, someone who strives to be the greatest, like Zoro or Mihawk from One Piece. Probably more of a Zoro type of character. But if it's like a level 15 plus campaign, then I can maybe justify playing like a Mihawk type character who is already the greatest. Although I think working up to that would be more interesting. I'd want this character to be a pure martial with no spells. I imagine that they would be somewhat anti-magic. Like they consider any damage dealing spells to be shameful maybe. They couldn't be too extreme in their anti-magic beliefs though, since that may be unfun for the other players. But just slightly judging them if they cast a damage dealing spell could be fun. Another idea I like is them having a bunch of named attacks. A funny attack name I thought of is them shouting, Martial Caster Divide! As they cut a caster in half. Honestly, if I played this today, I'd probably also take a lot of inspiration from Blue Eye Samurai. Because I've watched it recently and it's absolute fire. I watched it with my dad and it was a little awkward at first since I didn't realize how many lewd scenes there'd be. But after the first episode, I was completely on board. Lewdness cannot prevent my search for peak fiction. I highly recommend you watch it too. But back to the character. So mechanically, it'd probably likely just be an optimized fighter or an optimized barbarian. Personally, I'd probably end up doing a multi-class between the two. Now, those were the slightly more fleshed out ideas. Now we'll speed run through a few questionable ones. Another character I sort of want to play is just myself, but isekai'd. Literally just me. However, I'd probably call them Hugh or Huey instead of Matthew. I'm fully aware this is an awful idea for several reasons, but it would be really funny for at least a few hours, so it may be worth it. Another character I have an idea for. I think it'd be fun if I played as a butler, possibly with a connection to one of my fellow party members. We'd have to plan out ahead of time, but I think playing an Alfred type character could be really fun. Mechanically, I'd want to play a homebrew subclass, so I'd have to get DM permission ahead of time. But in this video, I saw these guys talking about Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakenheim and the Commander Fighter subclass, and I really want to play that. I love the imagery of being able to say, Sir, might I suggest that you attack the enemy? And having that mechanically work is really funny to me. I don't even have to be a butler, I just really want to play this subclass in general, honestly. And finally, I want to play as a very questionable character. The best way I can describe it is I want to play as a Redditor. I imagine them being a wizard or cleric. A part of me wants them to be isekai, so it's like they're a hardcore Redditor and they appear in the fantasy world and they're forced to be a cleric. And they're not like a D&D player either. And I don't even think they would know much about fantasy stuff. They're just hardcore Reddit. I don't know. I feel like either my fellow party members would despise me as a person if I played this, or they'd laugh a few times. High risk, high reward, potentially worth it. That's it. Feel free to use these ideas yourself. I really want to play these characters in either 5e or maybe DC 20 when it comes out. Check out DC 20 and Blue Eye Samurai. Bye.